everyone, and welcome to TWF Rampage or Ram Crew. I am Jim Ross, here with Tony Schiavone and with Montel Vertadius Porter. And today on Rampage or Ram Crew, we're going to have the new World Women's Heavyweight Fighter Charlotte Flair is here today. Jim Ross said on Rampage or Ram Crew. Well, that's right. Tony Schiavone said. It seems that Ronda Rousey did not want to put her winnings on stake against Charlotte Flair. The winnings was taken off of her, and Charlotte Flair became the World Women's Heavyweight Fighter again. Yeah, we're talking about unfair things going on, Montel Vertadius Porter says. It's unfair that Killer had to start shit with Omos. I didn't want Omos and Killer to come to blows the same way Yokozuna and Big Van Vader did under James E. Cornette's watch, in the same way that CM Punk and Brock Lesnar did under Paulie Dangerously's watch. And other words, Jim Ross said you went around telling everyone how you were so greater than Paulie Dangerously and greater than Selena Vega and Scarlett Dove and Robert Stone. Telling yourself how you were so great and all those other overseers. And your men started to have hang-ups, Jim Ross says. Jim Ross, you don't worry about it. I'm working out my thing with Omos and Killer. It's not going to be what happened between Yokozuna and Big Van Vader, or what happened between Brock Lesnar and CM Punk. That's not happening. Well, all right, Tony Schiavone said, we'll leave it to you then. And here comes Charlotte Flair now, Tony Schiavone said, the World Women's Heavyweight Fighter. That's right, Tony Schiavone. Jim Ross said Charlotte Flair has won the WWE SmackDown Women's Heavyweight winnings at least 7 times. She won the WWE Raw Women's Heavyweight winnings about 6 times. The WWE NXT Women's winnings 2 times. And the WWE Women's Tag Team winnings at least once. And the WWE Divas Heavyweight winnings once too. And she also won the FCW Divas Women's Heavyweight winnings too. Jim Ross says she's done a lot in her calling since she's been in W since 2012 YL. She's done a lot, Jim Ross says. She's probably done a lot more than what I guess her father, Ric Flair, her half-brother, David Flair, and well, we don't know if Reed Flair would have done what he would have done if he was still alive, Jim Ross said. Well, we don't know about that one, Tony Schiavone said, but we do know that Charlotte Flair is the only last of the Flairs in the wrestling business. Megan Flair, the other younger sister, chose not to go in the wrestling business. So, anyway, Charlotte Flair says, I'm back here. I'm the World Women's Heavyweight Fighter, on top of being a 7-time WWE SmackDown Women's Heavyweight Fighter. And the funny thing is that on Look and Love, it goes both ways. And I have done a lot over the years. Either you loved me, you hated me, you knew what you were getting with me. And there's a grounds to why I would keep on winning winnings again. Because I was good, I was entrusted, and folks knew I would do the right thing with the winnings. Unlike so many other women wrestlers out there, there's very few in between you can trust to win the winnings as many times as I have won it. When you have the skills, when you have the trust, that's how it goes. And sometimes that can make folks angry out of others. And I've known there have been folks who have been angry at other folks for something they wish they had or they didn't have. It was never me. Other folks were always angry at me. Other folks I can't handle. I can't have a handle on their behaviors or what they think. All I can do is run and lead myself. And the thing is, I'm just saying, did you miss your queen? Because I think you did. Oh, Charlotte Flair. Should I say Ashley Flair? You gotta be kidding me. You're the World Women's Heavyweight Fighter again? I mean, come on. not really anything outstanding, now is there, about you? Oh yes, you are the daughter of Ric Flair. Yes, you had a half-brother, David Flair, that was in the wrestling business. Didn't do very well. He went from WCW to WWF TNAW. You had a brother, Reed Flair, which he was a beginner wrestler, and we all know what happened. But you know what? Beyond that, it's not really anything outstanding. We all know you may have played lawmaking to win the WWE Raw Women's Heavyweight winnings, the WWE SmackDown Women's Heavyweight winnings, the WWE NXT Women's Heavyweight winnings, the WWE Women's Tag Team winnings as many times you won that, and the WWE Divas Heavyweight winnings. Well, let's call it women, because diva is a Latin borrowed word. Anyway, look, what are you? Oh, Ruby Riott, Ruby Solo, whatever you want to call yourself. Look, I'm sorry you got fired in 2020 from WWE after you went from NXT to, I believe it was to SmackDown, I believe. And things didn't quite work out. Then you got wounded. Then you were put on Raw and things didn't go well and you got fired. Don't guilt that on me. You know, then you went to TNAW, you went to AEW. They told you, hey, that was a shitty deal you got in WWE, but hey, don't worry, we'll make it up for you. Did you really do any good things while you were there? Are you, by the way, a former AEW Women's Heavyweight fighter? No. I guess you're not even a former IW Women's Heavyweight fighter. I would give you some onlook if you were at least the OVW Women's Heavyweight fighter. No, I guess you weren't. So, we're going to have this match since you come out and want to do what Sonya Deville did to me last night on WWE's offshoot of Friday Night SmackDown. Yeah, that's what I want. Alright, we'll get the fight lore in the ring and we'll make it a thing. Well, this is for the TWF. This is for the World Women's Heavyweight winnings. First, she is Ruby Riott, and she is the TWF. She is the World Women's Heavyweight fighter, Charlotte Flair. Well, a little thing Tony Schiavone says, it is true that Ruby Riott or Ruby Solo, whatever you want to call her, she did not win the AEW Women's Heavyweight winnings. She did not win the IW or OVW Women's Heavyweight winnings. She didn't win the WWE SmackDown, WWE Raw Women's Heavyweight winnings either. Or the WNXT Women's Heavyweight winnings. Well, that's true, Jim Ross says. Charlotte Flair, giving those chops she does, that all the Flairs do. Rick did it, David did it. I don't think Reed ever did it, but we know Charlotte did. Oh! And down goes Ruby Riott. Or Ruby Solo, whatever you want to call her, Jim Ross said. I get scathed enough in AEW for saying the wrong ring name. Well, Jim Ross said, don't worry, Tony Schiavone said. Xena and Hunter Hearst Helmsley and Godzilla are very forgiving of a mistake when it comes to ring names. We go by the WWE ring names, Tony Schiavone said. Well, I don't care what you want to call them. Call her Ruby Riott, call her Ruby Solo. I don't care, Montel Arcadius Porter says. You can call her a loser, but at the end of the day, she didn't do anything in AEW and didn't do anything in WWE that was worth talking about. And Charlotte Flair, yeah, we all know what she did in WWE and has been doing in WWE. You know, we all know she's a 7-time WWE SmackDown Women's Heavyweight fighter, a 6-time WWE Raw Women's Heavyweight fighter, a 2-time WWE NXT Women's Heavyweight fighter, and a 1-time WWE Women's Tag Team fighter, so we do know she's got that. She's a Keenly Loudness winner, the women's offshoot. Oh, Ruby Riott just knocked her down. We all know about that, Montel Arcadius Porter said. I don't like Charlotte Flair, but I do onlook her, and she's done a lot more than what Ruby Riott has done. Well, talking about that, said Montel Arcadius Porter. Alright, you're right about that. Jim Ross says, Ruby Riott has not done as much in AEW or WWE as other wrestlers may have done, or overstars or fighters, what you want to call them, Jim Ross says. But at the end of the day, she could do something and become the World Women's Heavyweight Fighter here today on Rampage or Ram through here in the TWF, Jim Ross said. A nice spine breaker. You're right, Tony Schiavone says, Jim Ross. Any day, anyone can become a fighter in the TWF. They can win the winnings, you know. Wait a minute. Oh, Ruby Riott went down. Charlotte Flair got that big boot in her rear, Jim Ross said. Yeah, Tony Schiavone said. Will she make her give up in the folk in the fellow 8? Will she get her to yield? Will she give up? Tony Schiavone said. I don't think so, Montel Vertatis Porter says. She's tough. She's strong. I don't think she's going to yield. Ding, ding, ding. Here is your winner. Here is your winner. And still, the World Women's Heavyweight Fighter, Charlotte Flair. Well, Charlotte Flair has beat Ruby Riott, or Ruby Solo, here today on Rampage or Ramfru, and is still the World Women's Heavyweight Fighter in the TWF, Jim Ross says. And at the end of the day, what is the big unlikeness between two of the ring names? One WWE owns and one is her true name, I guess, so. You know, I guess Jim Ross said. But good for Charlotte Flair beating Ruby Riott here today on Rampage or Ramfru. And she's still the World Women's Heavyweight Fighter, Jim Ross said. Yes, she is, Tony Schiavone said. She did end up beating Ruby Riott or Ruby Solo, whatever you want to call her. You know, she's still the World Women's Heavyweight Fighter as of right now. Yeah, Montel Vertatis Porter said she still has the love and onlook from many. She still is a World Women's Heavyweight Fighter. She beat Ruby Riott. But at the end of the day, how long is she going to hold on to it? Well, we know one thing. Michael Cole now is now going to be talking with Charlotte Flair now. Alright, Charlotte Flair. You have won many winnings in WWE over the years in the TWF. So, you just won a match with Ruby Riott. Yes, I have, Michael Cole. I'm iffing. I'm scaled. You know, I put in the work. I put in the time in the work. You know. And either folks either loved me or they hated me or onlooked me. They knew what they were going to get from me. Yes, Ruby Riott, or Ruby Solo, whatever you want to call her, fought that she could walk in and become the World Women's Heavyweight Fighter. Fought that she had a goal. Fought that she could outdo me. Listen, Ruby Riott, I'm not saying you're not a skilled wrestler or a skilled fighter or a skilled overstar, or you wouldn't be in the wrestling business. But to say you were going to outdo me in one match was not going to happen. And to guilt me for how your run in WWE and your run in AEW went, don't guilt it on me. I had nothing to do with it. So anyway, I know Ronda Rousey likes to say she was the fighter's fighter, but at the end of the day, she didn't want to fight me. They had to give up the winnings, and now I have it. It is what it is. And let's be earnest about it. It wasn't like she was putting in the time or the work. Yeah, but anyway, I put in the time, I put in the work. And I'm entrusted. That's why I have won the winnings I wanted. And that's why I've been in WWE as long as I have been. Playing lawmaking had nothing to do with it. Well, we know one thing, Charlotte Flair. It's good to see you back in the TWF again. Good to see you back as not only the WWE SmackDown Women's Heavyweight Fighter in WWE, but the World Women's Heavyweight Fighter in TWF. Well, thank you. Well, that's my talk with Charlotte Flair. Back to you, Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone. Well, thank you, Michael Cole, for talking with Charlotte Flair here today on Rampage or Ramfru. And that's all the time we got here today for Rampage or Ramfru. I am Jim Ross for Tony Schiavone and Montel Vertatis Porter. We hope you like Rampage or Ramfru, and we'll see you tomorrow for Power or Might.